From Krypton Radio and the creators of the Hangin web show, it's the legend of the Traveling Tardis. Look inside and behind the scenes at some of the most enduring and beloved science fiction worlds. Step inside the doors to a world that is bigger, brighter, and beyond imagination. And now, join your host, Christian Basel, as you become a part of the legend of the Traveling Tardis.
Hello again, Whovians. Welcome to another episode of the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS radio show, wherever you're listening on iHeart, iTunes, Spotify, Krypton Radio, wherever you are looking for us in the known Whoniverse. Welcome and thank you again for listening. My name is Christian Basel. I am the host of this Traveling TARDIS circus, but I don't do this alone, so let me introduce my guest today. Coming back, my fellow friend, Kevin J. Kessler, author. Kevin, welcome back there. It's been a while, man. How you doing?
Hey, Christian. Yeah, well, it's been a while. I was away for the holidays, and then was getting caught up on the way back. It's good to be back.
I know. Did you guys have a great holiday? And did you get a Whovian present for Christmas?
Yeah, I had a great holiday, but no Whovian presents this year.
Oh, no. Well, what did you get? What was your favorite present this year?
I got a Tampa Bay Lightning jersey, which I've wanted for a while.
Sweet. And coming back fully refreshed. I don't know if she's fully refreshed. I totally am. I think we're still exhausted a little bit. Coming back from Central Florida Comic-Con with me is Melanie Dean. Artiste Melody Dean.
Artiste
Melody Dean.
Yes, I am refreshed. Got those steps in this weekend. It was awesome. Glad to see and meet a lot of listeners at Central Florida Comic-Con. It was awesome.
I know. We'll talk about that more in just a little bit there. And welcoming back Chris Daly.
Hey,
of the Wibbly Wobbly Timey story. Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
I was just saying good afternoon. Thanks for having me back. And looking forward to another great podcast. Yay.
Yes.
Wish I could have been at the Comic-Con, but unfortunately couldn't make it.
We
had 15 inches of snow here. So.
Oh, my God. Where are you at again? Heather and you all
Upstate
move all
New York.
around. Oh, my God. Jeez. I've been hearing about that snow, and I'm just like, everybody's been sending me messages saying, hey, Christian, how you doing down there? 71 degrees. How you doing? I'm just clearing off my windshield. So it's been really, really 15 inches of snow?
15 inches of snow.
I can't even imagine
and
that.
I'd like to say I shoveled it all and plowed it all myself, but no, I hired someone. Yeah.
They shoveled it. Melanie, my artiste, Jessica, we had a great time hosting panels at Central Florida Comic-Con. What did you think of the event?
The event was absolutely phenomenal. I do a lot of cons, so I've kind of go around and see ones that are new. I've seen ones that are old. I've seen ones that, are on my last leg. But this one was just incredible for a first-year con. I thought it had really great energy. The layout was spectacular. Lots of great panels. The cosplayers came in great force. They were top to bottom. Really great con. Highly recommended both as an exhibitor and as an attendee.
And I love the fact that everything was organized. I mean, they had printouts of all the schedules. They had everything. They had they had two people who were kind of like I didn't catch the names, they're sweet people, but they were giving out all the information about the panels that were going on. Not only that, but you know how when we go to bigger cons and it's like I need an HDMI cable or something like that, and it takes like 5 minutes, and God forbid that you need it right 2 minutes ago, and it's going to take 5 to 10 minutes to get it. But they were just like, hey, yeah, everything's taken care of. All right, you want something done? Yeah, the staff was awesome.
Absolutely, and even like from just from an attendee standpoint, I was talking to a few people, going with that communication. I mean, you go to other cons and like the person at the door and the person in the front and the person in the back don't know what all is going on. Everybody, top to bottom, they were on the same page. So if you were lost, if you needed help and you had a question, they all knew. Honestly, that kudos to that, because I've been to you go to San Diego sometimes, even that con, not everyone's going to be on the same page.
Well, nobody's in the same zip code sometimes.
Yeah.
Nobody's in the same zip code at times there. Well, guess what? And I'm hoping, we were having some technical issues earlier, but I'm hoping he's able to talk. we have a special guest who's on the line right now, so I'm hoping his microphone works. Mr. Ben Penrod himself, the CEO and showrunner of Central Florida Comic-Con. Let's see that. Ben, are you available there?
I hope so. How's it going?
Yay. Well, Ben, thank you. And thank you for coming in for this episode, and welcome to the show. How did you feel about the first comic convention down here in Central Florida, in Lakeland, Florida?
I thought it went really well. I was, I don't want to say I was surprised by the turnout, but I was really happy with how many people came out for the show. Saturday was so busy. Sunday was pretty good, but Saturday was pretty crazy, especially at the beginning there.
I was just like, there was I've seen a lot of, on average, first year cons, they don't really get a lot of people, but you pulled in quite a substantial amount of people, and I'm hoping every year it's just going to keep growing and growing and growing, and I'm hoping the Legend of the Traveling Tardis will be part of that growth every single year when we come back there. So, Ben, thank you so much for bringing us out there. Thank you for bringing the Hanging With Web team. We just had a phenomenal time. We were across from the Gotham Underground, and those guys were just fun to be with. So we enjoyed every moment that we were there. I was having a great time. The staff and the crew were wonderful. So I'm hoping next year you come. Everybody, I'm inviting you to come to Central Florida Comic-Con. Are you having one next year? Please say you're having one next year.
Yeah. So I tentatively have the same dates held for next year, the same weekend. I believe it will be the 18th and 19th. Let me look. I've got my 2020 calendar on the wall already. You guys don't even understand how insane. I have 4 calendars that I keep. So I've got my 2019 full year calendar, my 2020 full year calendar, and then I've got just month calendars for January and February of this year. So those are my 4 calendars that I just kind of keep up.
Yeah.
So I can keep track of where I'm going to be and what's going on.
I used to be so bad. I used to have like the 4 calendars on the wall, and they were dry erased, and I had to change them out every month, and that's why I got too lazy at some point. But yeah, I had to look at everything like the projector on the Starship Enterprise. I'm like, everything had to be sprawled out. I had to be able to see everything at once. But now they've got them on cell phones, so I've been using that there. Speaking of which, there was no segue to that. So Sage, bring on the Who Knew News.
Okay. Well, we had some fun news out there. John Barrowman was talking to Radio Times, and he revealed...
That's all you have to say is John Barrowman.
That's it. Barrowman, John. Yes. Barrowman. Oh, wrong John. So, but according to Radio Times, he was out talking with Theresa May, who is the Prime Minister over there in the UK, and she is a Doctor Who fan. More specifically, she's a Torchwood fan. So that was fun to reveal. She always loved the Christmas episodes, and she was slightly disappointed that there wasn't one this year. But she is not necessarily a secret fan, but she's a quiet fan. So that
not
was
necessarily in the closet, but maybe with the door wide open.
Exactly so.
Kind
yes,
of a fan.
Very much enjoys the show.
As much as the Queen is a fan of Doctor Who.
Yes, well,
so we know she is, but she's not going out there in her geeky shirt wearing, a fez and a scarf out there. But
definitely
could you just
not.
imagine if our president came out and said, "Yes, I'm a big fan of Doctor Who, and my favorite episode is Arachnids in the UK." I'd be like,
I'd love to see him in a fez. Yes.
Oh, God.
I think Christian should wear a fez.
Fezzes would never be cool again.
Well, let's see. What else do I have? I have BBC Books, who is going to publish the novelizations of the only 2 classic Doctor Who stories that have never been released. And it's all about the Daleks. We have the 5th Doctor story, Resurrection of the Daleks, and the 6th Doctor story, Revelation of the Daleks, that will both be released later this year. They got both the rights from the authors directly, and they'll be published in hardback in 2019 for the very first time.
Can't wait to get my hands on one of those things. I'm talking about Daleks too.
Absolutely. So, and also we have, let's see if I can pronounce it right, because my brain gets twisted sometime, but Tom Baker's Doctor Who Farewell comes to the big screen in March in Legopolis.
Yes.
Yes, so it was his final season as the star of Doctor Who, and it's going to be a Blu-ray release, but they're going to also put it on the big screen in select movie theaters for only one day, March 13th.
I kind of like that movie theaters. I like the Epics by my house. They're looking into putting classic stuff back on the screen, like Gone with the Wind and Indiana Jones and Star Trek and all those movies. And then I love this idea that every so often, because they'll put out an episode or a special of Doctor Who on the screen, and I love it because it's kind of almost like a miniaturized convention. Everybody comes out, everybody cosplays, and they're all there for one solid reason, to just geek out on what they're watching and absorbing. Have any of you guys seen like Doctor Who on the big screen? And what differentiated that from seeing on the big screen or to seeing it on the small screen when you're at home?
I did check out the... Yeah, I've seen a few of them.
The one with Max and David Tennant and Billy Piper and John Hurt on the big screen. I thought, that was. I feel like that was a really. The Doctor Who was really big at the time, and it was like a really cool bonding experience with other fans. And I also thought that story really lent itself to the big screen very well.
So the 50th anniversary, yeah, I think everybody was looking forward to this. It was just such an emotional drive that their favorite sci-fi show is now going to be on the big screen. But Melanie, you've also seen big screen Doctor Who, is that right?
Oh yes, I've seen a couple of them. The one that comes to my mind first is the Second Doctor's adventure with for Patrick Troughton, when they did the animated version of it, where they only had. Yeah, when they only had like a few frames here and there, so they went ahead and went back and animated the entire thing.
The Power of the Daleks, the regeneration scene, right? Oh, yes.
Yes. And animation style was kind of a little different, but no, I thoroughly enjoyed it on the big screen.
And I liked how they...
sorry, I was going to say, I saw the 50th anniversary, obviously, in theaters. We talked about that last week. But I also saw the Christmas special, at a Pack Theater in Syracuse, New York. And it's very different because you not only your own reaction, your family's reaction, but you get to see the reaction of all these other people who are strangers, but you have this one thing in common. And it's pretty spectacular.
Kevin, have you seen it in the theaters yet?
I have not. I just recently got into the idea of Fathom events, which are usually what what they are, is they're special Fathom events. And I plan on going to see one for Doctor Who soon. I just did the Death of Superman and Reign of the Superman double feature. How was that? It was great. Cool. If only the DC movies were as good as that double feature was. And I just saw the new Dragon Ball Super movie as a Fathom event. So now I'm hooked on Fathom events. So the next Doctor Who one that comes up, I'll be going to.
I agree. Fathom events really do come up strong with what their selection is and which theaters they're going to be at. And no, I highly recommend any Fathom event, really. I agree.
So Legopolis in March. And Sage, do we have anything else in the news?
That's the news.
All right. Well, folks, you noticed no ratings, no nothing. I haven't even mentioned the topic yet. So stay tuned, because I'm going to tell you what the topic is for this special episode, because it was inspired by somebody who sent me a message. And I want to get our panelists' take on it when we return to the Legend of the Traveling Tardis. So stay tuned and continue to become part of the legend.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics.
Every year, tens of millions of people flock to Florida for its sunny beaches and world-famous tourist attractions. Most never learn about the strange and unusual locations just off the beaten path. From the UFOs of Gulf Breeze to Robert the Haunted Doll in Key West. Learn about the myths, monsters, and legends from the dark side of the Sunshine State with author Mark Muncy and illustrator Carrie Schultz in their books Eerie Florida and Freaky Florida from the History Press. Find them at eerieflorida.com or wherever books are sold.
Devarius has lost everything. His parents murdered, his sister kidnapped, and the new village he called home destroyed. The Dragonia Empire is out of control, destroying anything and everything in their path, searching for the Resistance. Devarius is left with no choice but to find the Resistance, join them, and hope he can help them defeat the Dragonia Empire once and for all to bring peace to the land of Keldroga. Dragonia, Rise of the Wyverns, Dragonia Empire Volume 1.
Hello, sweeties. I'm Crystal Moore. I play the Doctor in fan series Doctor Who Velocity. You're listening to The Legend of the Traveling Tardis radio show.
Welcome back, fellow Whovians, to the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS radio show. My name is Christian Basel, and I've got an all-star cast today. I've got my buddy, author Kevin J. Kessler. I've got my, entrepreneur, Chris Daly. I've got my artiste, Melanie Dean, and I have our good friend from, I was about to almost say Awesome Con, and now Central Florida Comic Con as of recently this past weekend. CEO and showrunner of Awesome Con and Central Florida Comic Con. We have Ben Penrod. I'm glad he's here today because we had a wonderful time at the convention. Now I know what you're all thinking. You read the title and you go like, who made you a Whovian? And you're probably wondering where it all came from. And here's the thing that started the gears grinding in my head. I got a message from a woman. I won't give her name. And she had a concern. I'm in a legitimately serious concern about this. She wrote to me. I don't have the actual physical message, but paraphrasing, she goes, Christian, I'm only a David Tennant fan. Am I a Whovian? And that had the gears grinding over and over and over again to the point where I'm thinking to myself, am I a Whovian? So I wanted to know the intricacies of what makes a Whovian. Who is a Whovian? What is a Whovian? Who are the Whovians? And how do they differ from the other fan bases other than being fans of Doctor Who? So if I could take everybody's time for a moment there, just for a split moment, I'm going to start with you, Ben. What made you a Whovian? Do you remember the Doctor, the episode, and the moment that you said, I'm a Whovian? Where did that all start?
So I kind of became a Whovian by chance. I think at the time Matt Smith was probably already the Doctor, but I needed to watch something while I was working. I was doing some mindless work, and I just needed to have something on TV. I think I had finished watching Dexter, so. I had all these friends who were into Doctor Who, and I was like, I'll check it out. So it was on Netflix at the time, and so I just started with Rose, and started watching. And before too long, I wasn't really working anymore. I was just watching, and so I just kind of marathoned until I had caught up with the real time, and so. That's kind of how I got into it, but it was I really liked the first season, and then when David Tennant came in, then it was like, oh wow, this is really special. And then I also I really enjoyed Martha as a companion with David, and I think that was my favorite stuff.
So you started at the reboot. Have you dipped into the classics yet?
I've watched some of it, not a whole lot, and I don't know. Some of it I'm kind of into. Some of it really isn't my cup of tea.
I got you. So the classics are in there, but not all of them. I mean, that's 50 years and 800 some odd episodes, or at least that's what I saw last time on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
to cover, and that's not going to be an easy task. When I jokingly talk about when you're going back to 1963 to 66, and when we're talking Wibbly Wobbly, we're talking about the sets and the TARDIS just literally shaking in time and space there. Melanie, what started your Whovian lifestyle? And you became an artist through it, right? You've been inspired.
Oh yes. The first inklings of Doctor Who were back in the 80s when I was but a wee Mel, and my father was watching a lot of the Tom Baker series on PBS. Mm-hmm. So at that point, I mean, my memories are kind of fuzzy because I was really tiny. But I remembered seeing, a man with a very colorful long scarf and way too many teeth in his smile, being chased around by pepper pots. And I remember liking it, loved it. Whenever we sat down, we'd watch it together. So it was like one of my first memories really with my dad. But then, later on, it went away and I never really touched Who again. Not until maybe during Matt Smith's run. Funny enough, one of the restaurants I would go to, a couple of the waitresses were walking around and they've got these little tick marks all over their arms. And I'm like, counting. And I'm going, what on earth is that? So kind of chit-chatting with them and being geeks and whatnot, and they're telling me, you got to check out Doctor Who. Oh, it's from Doctor Who. You got to check out Doctor Who. I tried valiantly. I tried going on to Netflix, tried doing 9, and I couldn't get past the farting monsters. I was just like, nope, I can't do this. I'm sorry. This is too campy for me. I know. So little by little, I figured, you know what? I don't know if I can do this. So
wait. You couldn't get past the farting monsters, but you were okay with the plastic things, right?
The plastic things I was okay with. How weird is that? But then I couldn't get to this living, and after that, I'm like, all right, no. So eventually, I tell this to my friend and she goes back. She goes, here, watch this episode. And she knows I'm an artist. She knows my background's art history and all that fun stuff. She makes me watch Vincent, and that made me I started weeping at the end because of the vindication for Vincent, and I'm just, okay, I'm back in, let's start this anew. So I turn on Netflix, I get back to Rose, and I'm like, all right, let's see this. And I'm starting to going through past this Levine and going, wow, I really liked Rose. Something about Rose I really identified with, growing up a little bit more poor and, trying to be a little bit more than what your little class society is going to, dealt to you, and really just started loving the show. And then I started becoming inspired by it, started painting a lot of the characters from it, and here we are today. I'm a Whovian.
Gotcha. Kevin, who made you a Whovian?
I have my friend Kevin Clark to blame for that. We were professional wrestlers together. He's been my best friend for a long time. So one day he comes up to me and he goes, hey, I need you to do something for me. And I was like, yeah, man, what do you need? And he's like, I need you to start watching this show called Doctor Who. And I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of weird. Why? And he was like, because I started watching it, I'm obsessed with it, and I need somebody to talk about it with. And so I was like, okay, well, tell me what it's about. And I remember he said the Doctor is an adventurer and a traveler, and he started going on this whole big thing about it. So my first question, of course, being such a basic geek, I was like, so does he have superpowers, or does he fight people? And he's just like, no, he never has to. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I watched Rose and I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it. Mm-hmm. Then the farting aliens happened, and I was just like, dude, I can't watch this show. It's stupid. And he was like, no, keep it going.
An issue with farting aliens.
The Dalek, the first Dalek episode, I was just like, wow, that was really good. They really made that ridiculous looking thing scary. And Eccleston was kind of rise and fall for me. It was hit or miss. Every time I felt like giving up, another episode happened where it kept my attention. Right. But once we got to Tennant's first episode, the second he quoted Lion King, I was like, oh, this is awesome. I'm hooked on this guy. And then the Madame de Pompadour episode was the one that fully got its hooks into me, and I was just like, okay, I love this show now. I'm obsessed with it.
Chris, who made you a Whovian? Chris, are you in deep thought about this? Mr. Daly? All right, maybe we'll get back to Chris on that there. I was just asking because this woman was kind of concerned about her being a Whovian and where does the line cross. And I was, and I'm just going to throw this out there to everybody of what you think. Can you like one Doctor and still be a Whovian? And what legitimately is a Whovian? Can you like the book series? Can you just like Big Finish? I mean, where do you think the line is drawn as far as Whovians are concerned?
I think anyone that watches consistently can be called a Whovian. If it's a part of your week, if it's a fandom that you identify with, I think you can wear the Whovian badge. I think it's, I don't think it's right to tell someone you're not Whovian enough, or you're, that's like people saying.
Well, what sort of a litmus test could you have to prove who is and who isn't?
I know. I
Whovian
just like
enough?
Exactly. That's
But
like
that's
if someone was
everything.
like, "Oh, you've never listened to the Big Finish audio adventures, you're not a real Whovian," I would probably never speak to that person again, because that's elitist and that's horrible. I think anyone that enjoys it and gets joy out of it could call themselves a Whovian and be fine.
There seems so many
Yeah,
layers.
I agree with that.
Okay. Well, Chris, actually, now that you're back, who made you a Whovian? We'll get more into that question.
Yeah, as I was saying, and had technical issues, I was always a sci-fi fan, Star Trek, Star Wars, whatever. Star Lost, if anybody remembers that horrible series. But it was being immobile due to a broken leg and being plunked down in front of a TV with Doctor Who on. The first couple of minutes were, what is this? What is this? And then after about 15 minutes, it's like, this comes on every day. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've watched all the Tom Bakers, all the Peter Davisons, all the Colin Bakers, all Fester, the Fox movie, everything that's come out since. And I mean, I don't know what makes one person more Whovian than the next. Do you have to have X number of scarves or hats or coats to consider yourself a Whovian? Do you have to plan your week around it? Do you go cry in the corner for a half hour when you find out that there's not going to be another new episode for a year?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is no one answer to what makes a Whovian, other than maybe, if you love it to the point where you can identify with the philosophy,
Mm-hmm.
then call yourself a Whovian. If you watch it casually, whatever, you know what? Call yourself a Whovian as well. You enjoy it. Then who's going to correct you?
But I mean, when I go through my life, I know people who could run rings around me. I mean, I would think I am very steeped in Doctor Who knowledge, but there's people who know the books, who know the audios, who've heard all the Big Finish audios, who are like subscribers to Big Finish. I mean, who seen both of the Peter Cushing movies, who've seen probably Doctor Who from the very beginnings and managed to somehow see the black and whites as they premiered. And I'm just sitting here going, what makes somebody at that point? But Ben, I have a question for you. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and back to commercial and pay some bills. When we come back, I got a little question for Ben to see if he can, what his answer is when we return to this episode of The Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. Stay tuned.
Joanne Fisher's The Spanish Doll. Secrets in Italy? Oh yes. Her beauty strikes him like a thunderbolt sent by the goddess Venus. When Fiore is given a peculiar gift, a Spanish doll, she is thrown into a whirlwind of entangled passion, money, secrets, and love. Get swept away today by Hangin with Web Show featured author Joanne Fisher's The Spanish Doll. Available now on Amazon.com.
From some of today's best-selling, award-winning authors comes 22 page-turning tales, Cursed Lands.
Cursed Lands will lead you through one doomed world after another in a haunting dystopian urban fantasy.
Join the courageous as they battle for survival across worlds where fae, vampires, angels, witches, and more roam freely.
Cursed Lands is coming soon on Apple Books, Kobo, and Nook.
Pre-order your copy for just 99 cents today.
Now on Amazon.com. War Calls, Love Cries, a Civil War novel by Mark Berry. Isaac Wells is an innocent farm boy living in upstate New York. His dreams are shattered by a treacherous brother and the onset of a devastating civil war. War Calls and Love Cries is a fast-moving historical narrative. It is an emotional roller coaster ride and a riveting must-read book that you will think about and talk about for a long time to come. War Calls, Love Cries is the kind of book you will cherish for a lifetime. On Amazon.com today.
Murder by the Gods from author William G. Collins is available today. Murder by the Gods is a mystery thriller set in the glorious past of ancient Egypt. When the son of the Scorpion King suddenly collapses after receiving a mysterious threat from the god Seth, the prince is convinced it is the gods who are trying to kill his family. Murder by the Gods is filled with adventure and romance in a kingdom that would become known as the Land of the Pharaohs. Murder by the Gods from author William G. Collins is available on Amazon.com today.
And we're back to the Legend of the Traveling Tardis. My name is Christian Basel. I'm your host on this ride, and I have, again, Ben, Melanie, Kevin, and Chris to join me on this conversation. Who made you a Whovian? Ben, my question to you is, adding to the definition, we know that they're fans of Doctor Who. What is a Whovian? Oh, I get music, too.
This is my computer making notifications.
I wanted just a lead-in for that question. What is a Whovian? Just beyond the definition of being a fan of Doctor Who, what makes that person a Whovian?
I think it's kind of the act of identifying yourself as a Whovian, as opposed to, I think just wanting to be identified that way is probably enough. I would hate to question somebody's, fandom or anything like that, or how big of a fan somebody was. Everybody enjoys what they enjoy in different ways, and I think, I'm a professionally, very much invested in the fan community being healthy and vibrant, but at the same time, I'm a fan, and I like things differently than other people. I'm probably more of a casual Whovian, but I'm still when I'm watching or when I'm talking about it, I'm still very invested in it. Although I haven't listened to the actually I've listened to a few of the audio stories, but I haven't. But it's not something that I keep track of, and I have to listen to the latest one, and I don't necessarily watch all the episodes as soon as they come out, although I will eventually get caught up and marathon them before the new seasons start. I'm a little more casual about it, but I'm still, very much into it, and I still have a ton of Doctor Who merch, and you can see me, wearing Doctor Who T-shirts and things like that, and it was still booking David Tennant for Awesome Con was probably the most amazing thing ever. Actually we booked Peter Capaldi the year before that, and he was still filming at the time. He was still filming Doctor Who, and I just looked at one of my coworkers, Peter, who is also a big Doctor Who fan. This is 5 seconds after Peter Capaldi arrived in the at the convention center, and I shook his hand and said thank you for coming, and then I kind of ran off to Peter, and I was like, the Doctor is here, this is the freaking Doctor is at this is at our show. So right. that was a huge moment, but I'm not, at the same time, I'm not super, I'm not one of the people who can tell you the name and number of every single episode. There may be other things that I can do that for, not necessarily Doctor Who.
but I guess Melanie, I think there's a fine line between maybe hardcore and just casual. As Ben is saying, he's a casual fan, and he knows a lot about the show and the series and has an appreciation for it. But I guess where's the delineating line of? Can I be a one-person episode? Could I
think so.
Can I fear her and still consider myself a Whovian?
I think so. I think if you're a fan of the show, and if you're a fan of an episode or a series of them or a season or the whole thing. I think if you want to call yourself a Doctor Who fan, you can call yourself a Whovian. If you want to put other qualifiers or adjectives on top of it, then you can put yourself as I'm a casual Whovian, or I'm a hardcore Whovian, or I'm a fanatical Whovian, or I have every Doctor's, signature tattooed on me Whovian. I mean, there's ones that are like, oh yeah, I love that episode. It was nice. I'll watch it again on, Saturday, Sunday, whenever, or I'll DVR. There's a lot of different aspects of fans. So I think they're all going to be Whovians. I just think if you want to add a qualifier to it, you can. To echo something from earlier from the other panelists, I absolutely despise the one qualifier on top of that word, and that's the word real. I do not like when people say, well, I'm a real fan, or you're not a real fan. Nope. There's no pedestal in which you can stand and then judge upon others whether or not the realness of it, because I think that's just really toxic in the community of just fandoms in general, because I think the biggest one you saw that with was Star Wars, and whether or not you can have fans that like some of the movies and don't like some of the movies, and they're still fans. So I think the same thing goes with for Doctor Who. You can not be a fan of 6 and 7, but love Tennant. Okay, you're a fan. You can love everything. You're a fan. You can, like you said, you loved Fear Her. All right, you're a fan. Come on in. Come on into the fandom. It's fun.
It's the kind of thing that you see a lot of times in a lot of like geek culture, especially video games. Like I have friends like that are girl gamers, and like they'll pop on to like multiplayer, and guys will hear that they're a girl, and they'll be like, "You're not a real fan. You're just a fake gamer girl." Like,
I hate that so much.
Right. Like I can't stand that mentality. Like these are things that are meant for all of us, whether you're a casual fan, whether you're a super fan, whether you're obsessive. Like it should never matter. There should never be a question of what is a Trekkie, what is a Whovian, what is a Star Wars fan. Like it's like asking what is a human being. As long as you think you are, you are.
Yeah. And I as someone who is like invested in this culture that way, and whose job it is to be a fan, I guess. I can definitely say that women are probably much more serious fans when they really like something. In general, this is not it's not exact, but I think as a generalization, women are much more serious fans of the things that they love. And I think like some of the gatekeeping comes from a very misogynistic place, but when in reality, especially when we're talking Doctor Who fans and Star Wars fans, I've seen so many women who are just obsessed with it, and women are the ones that are generally going to buy the novels and the and a lot of the merch. And I think we've seen the Her Universe line of merch be so successful with women's clothing because there's so many women who are such big fans.
It does drive me insane, especially using the same example, but to cosplay and people like ripping on another cosplayer because they don't have the means, the money, or the tech to do what they do. So they'll find something, they'll get to the dollar store, put something together, and then somebody will come up and criticize them and go like, well, that's not the authentic, or that doesn't look real. I'm just like, are you serious? This person is putting their heart and soul out there. And I think the same thing with the fandom, like you said, Kevin, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, on this. I think that the fandom is what you make of it at this point, because people will go out there and criticize, you're not a real fan, you don't know all this stuff. And that was something that was kicking in my head, too. It's just like, who defines the real fan? And in some cases, how dare you define the real fan? I mean, who gave you the diploma to say you are not a real fan and you don't pass this Whovian 101 class?
How is somebody who watches a couple of episodes of Doctor Who and says, I like it, therefore I'm a fan, any different than somebody who watches a couple of episodes of football and says, okay, I'm a football fan? Who's going to say, no, you're not?
Right.
It's individual. It's up to you. It's how you feel. If you like Tennant, great. I like Tennant too. We have something in common. You don't like Colin Baker? He's not everyone's cup of tea.
Right.
But you know what? You enjoy what you enjoy. You love what you love. And if it's not good enough for anybody else, too darn bad. There, it keeps it's what makes you happy. And if you can't enjoy somebody else's love of a program because they don't know every single little detail that you do, too bad. Because guess what? There's always somebody out there who knows more than you. And if that's the litmus test, then just about everybody fails.
So if somebody and anybody can pick out this one, if somebody tells you, or you see somebody telling somebody else you're not a real fan, what is the retort to that? What would you tell that individual or person who's making that accusation?
There's no such thing as a real fan. There are only fans.
I like that. I like that a lot.
It's usually me pointing to the door and saying, "Out, troll." I'm not going to argue. Get out, troll. No one wants to hear you. Out.
I did see a reel, and I use that word just for fun. Doctor Who fan at a Walmart the other night. Just a quick story. It was a kid, maybe 16, 17. He was wearing a Fourth Doctor hat and a Fourth Doctor scarf. And I just walked up behind them very quietly and just sort of said, "Where's your TARDIS, Time Lord?" The poor kid jumped. I think he almost regenerated into Peter right there and then.
He almost fell down and just became blonde, right? Poor kid.
Yeah.
That's some therapy right there.
And then I gave him a business card. What can I say?
So, in going into the depth of the term fandom, I meant they don't. I guess we can safely say there's no limits to the fandom itself. Whether you cosplay it, whether you've seen only let's just say we've seen this person only seen the Peter Cushing movies, or as my friend had written me, she's just a David Tennant fan, but she doesn't avow the other doctors around her. She just loves David Tennant. So could I legitimately call my friend a fan, or is she just a fan of David Tennant?
She's a fan of the Doctor. At that point in time, that was the Doctor.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think she's a fan. She's a fan.
Yeah, because the main character switches actors here and there, the show is still the show.
Right.
And if you're a fan of any point in time of the show, you're a fan of the show.
Yeah, and who's to say that there won't be somebody in the future that she's interested in again? It's there. It's a part of it's a part of who she is and what she and her kind of fan a part of what she's a fan of, I guess. So
well, you know what? It's a huge
not something that she wouldn't watch again anyway.
Okay.
I'm a fan of Once Upon a Time, the show Once Upon a Time, but the later seasons are terrible. And I stopped watching it before the end. I'm still a fan of the show because I'm a fan of those first 3-4 seasons that I felt were really tight. But it's okay to fall out of love with something and still consider it something and still cherish the memories that you have that were good. That maybe an episode of David Tennant got you through a breakup or it got you through a bad day. Right. Some of these doctors are kind of you almost consider them like a personal connection or a friend. And when they leave, it can leave a hole.
What my concern is... No.
I was going to say, just to quickly paint the analogy just a little bit broader, I think the same thing can be said in art and music. No matter what genre you particularly like, there can be an artist that you do not like. I mean, you can like Impressionism, and maybe there's one artist that you didn't really like what they did. Or in different genres of music. Maybe you like alternative, you love the grunge phase, but maybe there was somebody that you didn't particularly like. Doesn't mean that you're not a fan of it. It's just that particular part's not your cup of tea.
Okay. Well, this discussion's really getting good, but again, we still got to pay the bills for this show. When we return, we got one more question for the panelists. It's a big doozy one because we want to see how we can turn other people into fans who may not be fans of Doctor Who when we continue with the Legend of the Traveling Tardis radio show here on iHeart, Spreaker, Spotify, Krypton Radio, wherever you're listening to us. Stay tuned.
From the imagination of author Kevin J. Kessler, the Rosinante dragons are no more. They have fallen into the obscurity of lore. Now warrior Valentine Beret and Seraphina, a magically gifted princess, are on a mission to save the world of Terra. Together they must face the Rosinante legacy and combat the greatest threat their world has ever known. In the end, who is stronger, the man or the dragon? Find out in Kevin J. Kessler's The Rosinante series on Amazon.com today.
Best-selling and award-winning author of true crime and crime fiction, Yvonne Mason is back with a brand new book, The Pink Canary, a book that delves into the life of a drag queen and a marvelous whodunit. You can find this and all of Yvonne's other works on Amazon.com, or find Yvonne Mason on Facebook and Twitter.
He's gonna kill me.
Buy your copy of Pink Canary now.
The Right of Wands. One boy, one right, and a world of deadly secrets that could change the course of history forever. It's time for The Right of Wands by Mackenzie Floor. When a horrible fate reveals itself during the Right of Wands ceremony, Myrda must find a way to change his destiny. Forbidden from revealing the future, he is granted a wand and magical powers in order to save himself and those he loves. But Myrda is not the only one with secrets. The Right of Wands by Mackenzie Floor, available on Amazon.com now.
This is Cosplay Michael with the Hangin with Love Show. I want to tell you about my friends at Embellis Effects in Orlando, Florida. They've got makeup, costumes, and props for all of your costume needs. And the team at Embellis Effects is helpful and friendly. Embellis Effects is one of my favorite places, and I know it will be yours too. I'll see you there. Or go to embelliseffects.com. And remember, cosplay is for everyone.
And welcome back to the Legend of the Traveling Tardis radio show. My name is Christian Basel. I'm your host. I'm with my friends Kevin, Chris, Melanie, and Ben Penrod of Central Florida Comic-Con and AwesomeCon. Guys, again, I got a question for you, and I don't know. Here's the thing. One of the things that I've taken to task as far as the fan base is concerned was the reveal of Jodie as the next Doctor. And what I thought would be probably a possible celebration for Jodie became almost like the election. I was just watching fans ripping into each other about whether you like Jodie or not, whether you've stopped watching. And I think that's the biggest question of them all. For me, is when Jodie came out, and the fans started to walk away, and some of them started getting interesting, and in some cases, Jodie brought on new fans. I guess I don't have a real question about that, but what was your take on how fans reacted to Jodie in all the directions that they took? And do you think they're still considered fans even for people who may not like Jodie, or somebody who just said, "Hey, listen, I'm just not ready for her. I just don't like her." And there were people out there who had a legitimate questioning case against Jodie. There were some people that just said, I just don't want to watch her. I just don't. And I told those people, it's up to you. I can't force you to watch it. I'm inviting you to watch it as a fellow fan. Give it a chance. But if you decide not to, she'll probably be out in 3 to 4 years. We'll get a new person inside there, whether it be male or female. But I was trying so hard to figure out how to hold the fan base together, and inadvertently, I was getting ripped by fans. Like, it's just like, well, why aren't you more supportive of Jodie? I'm just like, we haven't even seen the first episode yet. I don't know what she's going to be like. I'm giving her all the chance that I want to because she's my Doctor. And in the Colin Baker sense, whether you like it or not. But it's my show, no matter who's in that role. Yeah, go ahead, Ken.
I can tell you. Okay. My wife is one of the moderators of the big Doctor Who group on Facebook, and I can tell you, reading some of the comments that she's had to delete, the toxic fan base out there. As soon as you bring up Jodie, it pretty much just falls. 50% seem to like her, 50% seem to hate her, and the visceral hatred in the two camps is very disturbing.
Well, that's your keyboard warriors, your people that feel like they can do whatever they want because they're behind the keys of a keyboard, and it's disgusting how people act online.
Well, I can also tell you that people have gone up to her at cons, and it's almost in your face. Do you or don't you like Jodie? And if you do, well, why do you like her? And if you don't, why don't you like her? It's very unsettling that people who supposedly love the show and the idea can get so bent out of shape because of a change.
Well, Melanie, I'm
not going to say personally whether I think the change is good, bad, or indifferent. It's just how visceral these people act towards it.
Well, Melanie, here's my take on this, and this was a little bit of my concern, and this is where I take issue with Jodie and the BBC. Because she did an interview with BBC America and said that Doctor Who's inclusive of everybody. Meaning that from my interpretation is it welcomes anybody no matter what you believe in, no matter who you voted for, no matter what you do. This show is for you. Now, the only reason why I take a little bit of a task is that when she came out and addressed the haters on that Twitter video. And she was reading some of the tweets and just responding to them. See, marketing sense and trying to show compassion, even for people who probably are haters. And there are going to be people who just, I don't care. They're gone. There's nothing you can do to save them. But for me, I would have thought it would have been more useful if Jodie, instead of going out there and going after the haters, tried to reevaluate and say, hey, listen, if you're still on the fence, I'm not going to retweet. She could have read the tweets and go, hey, you know what? Give me a chance. If you don't understand it, I love Doctor Who as much as you do. I'm going to make it very good. But then she started reading off the tweets, and I wouldn't even address these people. They're gone. There's nothing you can do to show them. I would have just stuck it out and said, hey, if you're on the fence, I'm here for you. That to me is the impression. I think that is the better road that should have been taken against the haters. Just don't address them. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean that there's not going to be haters out there. They're always going to be for every doctor.
Yeah, and you know what the thing is, it was coming at Jodie from all angles. I mean, there were former doctors who were disagreeing with the cat. Like I want to say Sylvester McCoy, has vocalized in the past, like, oh no, the doctor must always be a man, and things like that. And when things like that are happening, I feel like it she probably feel. I mean, I don't mean to put words in her mouth, but she probably feels like she has to almost kind of stand up for the female gender at that point, because it becomes less of like a what do I want to see in my sci-fi television show, and it becomes more an issue of just toxic misogyny.
But I think go ahead, Mel. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I know Peter Davison was one that was outspoken against a female cast. But then you had the balance, to me, was Colin Baker turning around and being delighted that a female was being cast. But then again, and his whole thing was that he has two daughters.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember and recall about the tweet thing. Was that one of the Jimmy Kimmel mean tweets, or was that something that the BBC did on their own?
I think the BBC did on their own. There were mean tweets, and she was reading them, and she was acknowledging them, and she responded to and I'm paraphrasing, like, "Oh, that was rude," or something like that.
I think because if they were doing it just like how mean tweets with Jimmy Kimmel usually does it, and that was probably where they were kind of getting the idea and how the viralness of them. When you're doing those the mean tweets kind of thing, that is specifically on the actor. And I think what happened is she probably went in there and saw them, and usually those are against her as an actress. And perhaps with BBC, and again, I'm kind of going a little generalizations here because I do recall them, but vaguely, so I don't want to misspeak. But if the BBC had put them out there and she's reading tweets that are more about the doctor being female, I could see where that can be misconstrued, especially if she's kind of speaking on behalf of herself as an actor. Meanwhile, they kind of put them out there and people watching it thinking, oh, she's doing it on behalf of the doctor being female, seeing what the that there's like a little bit of a delineation of what the topic is actually being driven, of what those tweets represent and what they mean. I agree with you if that was the case, that she wasn't really defending herself as an actress, but was supposed to be defending herself as the doctor character, being characterized as, being cast as a woman and all that fun stuff, and how the doctor's written. That perhaps, being, oh, that's rude, oh, that's that, that perhaps was not the right way to go. But I really think that she was going it on the method of her being called out herself.
But Ben, I don't. Kevin, did you have something to say? I'm sorry.
No, I said what I did.
No, okay. But Ben, I think you see, I come from a different perspective, and this is for me, because there was kind of a movement for the female doctor, and I have to go back and say to those folks, listen, I understand that you appreciate this, but first of all, there's nothing in Time Lord lore that said that a female doctor would have to eventually show up in your timeline, especially, in your 13th regeneration, if you even make it that far. But what I didn't appreciate was that this is what I appreciated and didn't appreciate. What I didn't appreciate was people saying that Jodie Whittaker needs to be the doctor because it's about time. And when I saw that video of the trailer, and I really got kickstarted. I really thought they were really, running the train really good. When I saw the trailer about her, going around and they saying, I feel glorious, glorious. When I saw that trailer, I thought, oh my God, they really are ramping her up. She's going to be good. I'm really excited. And then I saw the hashtag, it's about time. And I was like, wait, whoa, wait. And here's my thing on this. If you are in treating me that it's time for a woman to be the doctor because it's time for a woman to be the doctor, I'm not with you. I'm backing off. Because that's not where we're heading with this as far as what is best for the show. If you're telling me that you're bringing on Jodie Whittaker because she's an accomplished actress, she's wonderful. I've seen her in Broadchurch. I saw her in Attack the Block. And she, with her dynamic skills, can take on the role as if another male was doing this, and she can run it smooth, that we can all forget that she's female and believe that she's the alien of the Doctor. Then I'm with you. Then I'm for it. What do you think on that take, Ben?
Yeah, I think there's just a difference. I think it's just probably the difference between the creative department and the marketing department, in that the marketing department knows that there's a lot of fans who are wanting this and have that feeling, that have that sort of feeling about it, where they've been waiting for this for so long, and that's who they're kind of playing to. Whereas I'm sure, creatively they made sure that they had, the stories for her before they cast her. They were sure that it was going to be pretty good. It was going to be okay. That they felt really confident in casting her with what they had creatively. And then the marketing department gets a hold of it, and it becomes, whatever it becomes. It's not necessarily, the creative department isn't the ones doing the marketing, making the TV commercials and things like that.
I think that I'm going to kind of disagree with you guys a little bit here.
Okay.
I honestly think that the "It's About Time" hashtag, that's not saying like the Doctor had to be female eventually. I think that was to the female fan base, because it's a big deal when underrepresented groups of people get representation. Look at Black Panther. Look at Into the Spider-Verse. Like, how many kids went and saw Miles Morales and were just like, oh my God, that's a Spider-Man looks like me. How many little girls went to see Wonder Woman and were like, oh my God, finally a superhero that's like me. I think it's about time that the female Whovians, who have stuck through 12 male doctors, finally get to see someone that appeals to their demographic, appeals to their perspective. Finally, a female, like a little girl doesn't have to see herself as the Doctor's companion. She can see herself as the Doctor. and that is why it's important.
Well, I think we're going to be challenged and Moffat said it best. There were going to be changes in the series that were going to make Whovians uncomfortable, and I can surely appreciate that, especially if this show is going to continue on beyond me, which I hope it does. I hope generations of children, and if I have children, will appreciate something that I grew up with and loved and adored that will continue to run the gauntlet forever. But my take is this, and just a final thought, and I'm sorry, we only got a minute, so I'll give the final thought over here. My take is a Whovian is a fan, and there is no definition. It's just like the TARDIS. It is unlimited. Whatever you want. If you're just a fan of Peter Cushing, if you're just a fan of the cosplay, if you love one episode or one series or the entire thing, if you like Capaldi but don't like Colin, nobody should be able to tell you what kind of fan you are. You are a fan and you are appreciated, and I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you listening, and I hope you become a fan of our show and listen in for all the great stuff we've got to talk about, all the interviews and the news we're going to be discussing as the year progresses on, as we go to more conventions and stuff, just like Central Florida Comic-Con. I definitely want to make sure that I thank my friends, author Kevin J. Kessler. Catch him on the Justice Watchtower, the CW podcast. I think you're going to be starting things up. Chris Daly, he's going to be touring around with the Wibbly Wobbly Timey Wimey store. Check it out on Facebook and where they're going to be touring. Artiste Melanie Dean, my co-host and my good friend, and check out Ben. When's Awesome Con?
April 26th to 28th, and we usually have some pretty big Doctor Who guests.
Got it there. I want to thank you all for being our fans and to continue being our fans. No matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter what you do, always do what you do. Love Doctor Who in your own respective way, and keep listening to The Legend of the Traveling Tardis. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back every week with a new episode. Check it out next week, and we'll see you around.